70% of our planet is covered in water. We like to tell ourselves we have conquered the Earth, that we have mapped our continents to the inch, climbed our highest peaks, and pierced the veil of our atmosphere to look at the stars. But the ocean is different. It is a boundary we are not meant to cross. Down there, in the crushing silence, evolution has taken a dark turn. Things live there that defy our understanding of biology. Ancient things. Gelatinous, monstrous things that generate their own light to hunt in the void. But usually, despite the life teeming in the dark, the deep ocean is quiet. It is a grave. Until the summer of 1997, when something shocked the world. To understand the anomaly, you have to understand the ears of the world. The Cold War was over, but its ghosts remained in the water. Across the world's oceans lay SOSUS, the Sound Surveillance System, a vast, top-secret network of underwater listening posts and hydrophones originally planted to track Soviet nuclear submarines moving silently through the deep. These machines were engineering marvels designed to filter out the noise of the waves and hear mechanical whispers across thousands of miles of water. On August 19, 1997, the hydrophones in the equatorial Pacific did not pick up a whisper. They did not pick up a submarine engine or a torpedo launch. They picked up a scream. It began deep, an ultra-low frequency rumble that vibrates not just the eardrums, but the very ribcage of anyone listening. Here's the raw audio. Scientists at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, were manning the stations. These were men and women who had spent careers listening to the heartbeat of the ocean. They knew the songs of mating humpbacks, the grinding tectonic plates of the Ring of Fire, the mechanical hum of distant shipping lanes. But they had never seen a profile like this. The signal rose rapidly in frequency. It started low and swept upward in a curve that lasted for just over 1 minute. In acoustics, this shape is distinct. It does not look like the chaotic, jagged noise of a bomb. It does not look like the rhythmic chugging of a machine. To the trained eyes watching the monitors, the waveform looked organic. It looked like a voice. But the volume was impossible. To understand the terrifying scale of this sound, you have to understand the physics of water. Sound is energy. It travels 5 times faster in water than in air. The signal, soon to be nicknamed the Bloop, wasn't just heard by a single sensor. It was detected by sensors nearly 3,000 miles apart. Simultaneously. Let's put that in perspective. The blue whale is the largest animal ever known to exist on Earth. Larger than any dinosaur, its call is incredibly loud, up to 188 decibels. A jet engine at takeoff is only 140 decibels. A blue whale's song can travel for hundreds of miles, a lonely call across the abyss. The bloop dwarfed the call of a blue whale. Whatever made this noise had to be exponentially louder, exponentially more powerful than the greatest leviathan biology has ever classified. If a blue whale is the size of a bus, the source of the bloop would have to be the size of the Eiffel Tower. The NOAA scientists were baffled. Dr. Christopher Fox, a leading acoustic expert, went on record. He stated that the sound profile did not match any known man-made source. It wasn't a secret weapons test. It wasn't a submarine reactor going critical. But it also didn't look geological. Earthquakes and volcanoes have messy, chaotic sound signatures. They grind, they rumble, they drag on. They are the sounds of rocks breaking. The bloop had structure. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. To the experts, the bloop had the variation in frequency associated with a living pair of lungs. It sounded like a breath. For years, this was the prevailing, terrifying theory that somewhere off the southern coast of Chile, in the abyssal void, something had woken up. If the sound was biological, the implications are terrifying. It implies an apex predator that has evaded detection for all of human history, a creature capable of generating a sound that travels from the equator to the Antarctic. The location only added to the dread. The source was triangulated to a remote point in the South Pacific known as 50 degrees south, 100 degrees west. This area is near the oceanic pole of inaccessibility. It is often called Point Nemo. It is the place on Earth that is farthest from any landmass. If you are sailing at Point Nemo, the closest human beings to you are often the astronauts on the International Space Station orbiting overhead. It is the loneliest place on the planet, and this is where reality begins to bleed into fiction. In 1928, decades before the hydrophones were turned on, the horror author H.P. Lovecraft wrote his most famous story, The Call of Cthulhu. It tells of a massive, ancient cosmic entity sleeping in a sunken nightmare city called Relaye, waiting to rise and destroy humanity. Lovecraft, renowned for his obsessive attention to detail, gave specific coordinates for his sunken city: 47 degrees, 9 minutes south, 126 degrees, 43 minutes west. The triangulation of the bloop's origin point was shockingly, uncomfortably close to Lovecraft's fictional nightmare city. For the imaginative and perhaps the paranoid, this was too much of a coincidence. Had Lovecraft known something? Had he tapped into some subconscious dread shared by sailors for centuries? Or was this just the universe playing a cruel, ironic joke on our collective fears of the deep? For almost a decade, the bloop remained the ocean's greatest ghost story. It was scientific proof that we were not alone on this planet, that something else was down there, hidden by the crushing pressure, watching, waiting, and occasionally screaming. But science does not like mysteries. It does not like monsters. It seeks to categorize, to explain, and to rationalize the dark away. Years later, NOAA reopened the files. They claimed new analysis, assisted by data from hydrophones placed closer to Antarctica, had solved the riddle. The official explanation: the bloop was not a creature, it was ice. Specifically, they called it a cryoseism, or an icequake. They theorized that a massive iceberg, perhaps miles across, had cracked and fractured as it drifted away from the Antarctic ice shelf. The sudden release of tension in billions of tons of ice created a shearing sound that, when slowed down and propagated over thousands of miles of water, created the bloop profile. It is a rational explanation. It is neat. It is tidy. It makes the monsters go away and lets us sleep at night. NOAA is the authority. Their scientists are brilliant. And icequakes do happen. The ocean is full of the sounds of melting and cracking ice. But if you listen to the acoustic community, to the message boards, and to the people who desperately want the ocean to remain magical, the debate has never truly ended. Why did it take them nearly a decade to identify a sound that they say is common? Why did the initial experts, the men who built their careers distinguishing submarines from whales, insist it sounded organic? Ice creates a scratching, tearing sound. It drags. The bloop bubbled up. It had a distinct rapid modulation that mimics the vocal cords of a biological entity. And perhaps the most chilling question of all: why, since 1997, has nothing quite that loud, quite that structured, ever been heard again? The ice caps are melting faster than ever. Icebergs are cracking every single day. If this was just ice, the ocean should be a cacophony of bloops. We should hear bloops regularly, but we don't. We heard it once. One singular, massive call that rang out across the entire Pacific Basin, and then silence. Perhaps it was just ice. Perhaps the mundane answer is the correct one. But when you look out at the black water at night, when you realize that the bottom of the ocean is as alien to us as the surface of Jupiter, remember this: we have explored less than 5% of that darkness. We are intruders in a world that does not belong to us. And just because we have stopped listening doesn't mean that the things in the dark have stopped screaming. If an iceberg can make a sound that mimics life, what does it sound like when something down there actually breathes?